Rain fell in soft, heavy sheets that morning. The sky hung low over the cemetery like a blanket soaked in grief, and beneath a brittle old oak tree stood a girl no older than 17. She wore a threadbare gray hoodie, the sleeves chewed at the edges, and her sneakers were soaked through, mud swallowing the soles. In her hand was a single rose, wilted and bruised, clutched with such care it might have been a sacred artifact. She stared at the gravestone like it might answer the questions that screamed silently in her eyes. Why didn't he want me? Her name was Ava. The name was all she ever had from her mother, scribbled on a birth certificate next to the word father unknown. Her mother, a quiet woman who worked long shifts at a diner and came home to cry behind a locked bathroom door, had passed away 2 weeks ago from an aggressive illness no one caught until it was too late. It was just the two of them. Always had been. Now Ava stood alone. She wasn't crying, not because it didn't hurt, but because she'd cried so much in the last 14 days, her body had forgotten how. From across the graveyard, a sleek black car pulled up. It didn't belong there. The paint gleamed even through the downpour. The tires didn't crunch over gravel so much as glide. A man stepped out, tall, commanding, his black coat flapping in the wind like wings. His hair was silver at the temples, but his face was as sharp as the reputation that followed him. Nathaniel Harrington, billionaire, owner of one of the most powerful investment firms in the country. Cold, distant, untouchable. He wasn't there to mourn anyone he knew, not yet. He often came to the cemetery to visit his wife's grave, though no one ever saw him cry, and no one dared ask what secrets lay buried along with her. Today something tugged him to walk farther, to another side of the graveyard he'd never visited before. That's when he saw her, the girl with the rose. His eyes narrowed. There was something haunting about her, a familiarity he couldn't explain. She didn't see him at first, and he would have left if not for the name on the gravestone. Elena Marlowe. His chest locked up. He hadn't heard that name in almost 2 decades. The name of a woman he once loved but chose to leave behind for ambition, for family pressure, for a life that didn't have space for mistakes. Elena, he whispered, the past clawing at his ribs. The girl turned at the sound of his voice, startled. Their eyes met, and he froze, because she looked like her, like Elena, like the woman who once told him she was pregnant, before he turned his back and walked away without so much as a second glance. The girl's eyes weren't just similar, they were identical, the same storm gray irises, the same subtle arch in her brow. It was like seeing a ghost, except this ghost was flesh and bone, and standing right in front of him. Who are you? He managed. Ava stared at him with caution. She didn't know him, but there was something about the way he looked at her that made her blood run cold. No one, she muttered. Just someone saying goodbye. He took a step forward. Was she your mother? The girl hesitated. Yeah. Elena was my mom. Nathaniel's heart dropped. No, this couldn't be. It wasn't possible. And yet, he knew. Deep down, he knew before she even said it. And when he asked her name and she told him, his world tilted. Ava, he whispered, almost to himself. She named you Ava. And just like that, everything shattered. He didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. He sat in his penthouse staring out over the city that had crowned him king while inside. A long-buried truth festered and twisted like a blade in his heart. He abandoned Elena. He told her she'd ruin his life, that he wanted nothing to do with her or her child. Now that child was real, standing in the rain, staring at him with her mother's eyes and none of her warmth. Avenue, his daughter, and she didn't know. The next morning, Ava was back at the cemetery. She hadn't slept well. The stranger from the day before lingered in her mind. There was something unsettling about the way he looked at her, as if he knew her. And when he whispered her name, it wasn't just recognition, it was reverence, like it meant something to him, something deep. But she shook it off. Rich people were weird. She crouched beside the grave and brushed the rain-slick leaves from the headstone. Hey, Mom, she whispered, her voice barely a breath. I think I met someone who knew you. He said your name like it mattered to him. Do you think... Could he be... She didn't let the thought finish. It was stupid. Hope was dangerous. Half a city away, Nathaniel stood before a portrait hidden in his private study, a painting he'd commissioned long ago and never shown anyone. A soft, glowing image of Elena, smiling shyly, her hands resting on her belly. He hadn't known then if she'd actually gone through with the pregnancy. He assumed, no, he convinced himself, she wouldn't, that she couldn't. He was wrong. Ava was proof, and now every success he'd built felt like sand in his mouth. He canceled every meeting that day. For the first time in 20 years, Nathaniel didn't want to be a CEO or a public figure. He wanted answers. He called his private investigator. I need everything on Elena Marlowe, her life after 2007, medical records, employment history, addresses, and her daughter. I want to know everything. It took only hours, money talks, and what it told him broke his heart. Elena had worked 2 jobs, waitressing at a diner and cleaning houses at night. She lived in small apartments, barely making ends meet. No government assistance, no charity, just grit. She put Ava through school, fed her, clothed her, even saved up for a laptop when Ava showed promise in writing. Ava had won essay contests. She volunteered at a local shelter. She had no criminal record, no scandals, just raw, honest resilience. And he had missed every moment of it. He drove himself to the diner Elena used to work at. A waitress there, older, remembered her. Sweet girl, worked until her body gave out. Never complained. Loved that daughter of hers like she was gold. Nathaniel couldn't breathe. He found Ava again 2 days later. She was waiting outside a bus stop, a backpack slung over her shoulder, hugging a folder of documents to her chest. He parked and approached slowly, uncertain. She noticed him. Her posture stiffened. You again, she said. Why are you following me? I'm not following you, he lied gently. I just wanted to talk. About what? He gestured to a nearby bench. Please, just a few minutes. She stared at him, war waging behind her eyes, then sighed. Fine. They sat. Silence stretched between them like a tightrope. I knew your mother, he began, voice low. A long time ago, we were close. When she told me she was pregnant, he hesitated. I didn't handle it well. She laughed bitterly. So you're him. He blinked. I don't know who you are, Ava continued, but I've imagined you 1,000 times. The guy who walked away, left her to raise me alone, and now you show up like some ghost from the past? His jaw clenched. I didn't know. I swear to you, Ava, I didn't know she kept you. I thought she terminated, she snapped. Like I was disposable? He flinched. She shook her head. You're just here to ease your guilt. No, he said more forcefully than he meant. I'm here because I need to know you, because I should have been there. And I wasn't. That's on me. But if you'll let me, I'd like to try. She studied him, not just his face, but the tremble in his voice, the regret in his eyes, and something inside her softened, just a hair. Why now, she asked. Because I stood in front of your mother's grave, and I realized the biggest mistake of my life was walking away from her, and from you. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them back. I don't need your money, she said. I know. I don't want some fairy tale reunion. I don't either. She looked down at the folder in her arms. College applications, rejected due to late payments, her dreams slipping through her fingers. But pride is a powerful thing. I just wanted to go to Columbia, she whispered. Nathaniel's heart twisted. Then you will. I can't afford it. You will, he repeated. I'll make sure of it. She looked at him again, the walls beginning to crack. And what then? You disappear again. No, he said. If you'll let me, I'll be there, as much as you'll allow. Another silence, then she stood. I'll think about it. He nodded. That's all I ask. She walked away and he didn't stop her. But something had shifted. She didn't walk as fast this time, and she glanced back, just once. Nathaniel sat there long after she disappeared. The wind was cold, but he didn't feel it. For the first time in decades, he felt something else. A week passed. Ava didn't call. She didn't text. Nathaniel waited, checking his phone more times in a single day than he had in years. But nothing came. He respected her space, knowing he'd been a ghost all her life, one who didn't deserve to demand anything. But the silence gnawed at him, not because of his pride, but because every moment she stayed away reminded him of the years he had lost. The first steps, the birthdays, the late-night tears and bedtime stories. He had missed it all. And yet, on the seventh day, she showed up at his office. The secretary buzzed him with disbelief. "Sir, there's a young woman here. Says her name is Ava Marlowe." His heart stopped. He told her to send her in. Ava entered the office wearing the same hoodie, though it looked like she'd tried to scrub the mud off the hem. Her backpack was slung over one shoulder, and her chin was held high. She wasn't here to beg. She wasn't here to grovel. She was here for answers. He stood but didn't approach. "Thank you for coming." "I almost didn't," she replied. "I kept thinking, what if I walked into your life and you decided it wasn't worth it again?" He swallowed hard. "That won't happen." She sat, eyeing him carefully. "I didn't just come for college. I came because I need to know. Why did you really leave?" He exhaled. "Because I was a coward." She blinked. "I was young," he said, voice shaking. "Selfish, obsessed with legacy, success, power. My father threatened to disinherit me if I stayed with your mother. I thought I had to choose between love and a future, and I chose wrong." Ava didn't say anything. "I told myself for years that she probably moved on, that maybe she didn't want me in your life. But deep down, I didn't look because I was afraid." She opened her backpack and pulled out something, an old worn envelope. "I found this when I was cleaning out her closet after she died. It's dated the week before I was born. It was never sent." He took it with trembling hands, opened it. It was from Elena, a letter addressed to him. "Nathaniel, I kept her. I couldn't go through with it. I named her Ava. I don't expect anything from you, but I needed you to know. One day, if you want to be part of her life, please come find us." He couldn't speak. The paper trembled in his hands. His chest burned with something too heavy to name. She had given him a chance. He just never saw it. "I never got this," he whispered. "She must have changed her mind." Ava looked away. She kept it all these years. And suddenly it hit them both. How close they'd come to never knowing the truth. One lost letter, one missed opportunity, a whole life unraveled by silence. "I don't know what to do with you," Ava admitted. "I don't know if I hate you or if I want to know you." "I understand," Nathaniel said. "You don't owe me anything, but if you're willing, maybe we can start small." She raised an eyebrow. "Lunch?" A pause, then the smallest flicker of a smile. "Fine," she said, "but I picked the place." He nodded. "Deal." They ended up at a quiet corner cafe near her old school. The conversation was awkward at first. Nathaniel didn't know whether to ask about her grades or her favorite color. Ava, sharp and guarded, deflected with sarcasm. But slowly it thawed. She told him about her mother's strange obsession with watching the sunrise, how they'd sit on the fire escape every weekend morning just to see the light creep over the city, how Elena used to say, "No matter how dark it gets, the sun always shows up again." Nathaniel listened like it was gospel. Later that week, he showed up at Ava's apartment, not the crumbling one she shared with two roommates, but the building across the street. He handed her a set of keys. "What's this?" she asked. "A place of your own. Safer. Paid in full." She stared at the keys like they were forged from guilt. "You think this makes up for everything?" "No," he said. "Nothing will. But it's a start." She didn't take them right away, but she didn't walk away either. And then came the twist. One night Ava called him. It was the first time she'd ever reached out first. "There's something you need to see," she said. He arrived at her place to find her holding a dusty cardboard box. "I found this in Mom's storage unit. It's, her journals." He froze. She opened one. "You should read this." Ava flipped to a page dated just weeks before Elena passed. "I never told Ava the truth. Not all of it. I said her father left us. But the truth is, I never gave him the chance to stay. I lied. I was scared of what he'd become, of what he might take from her. He didn't abandon her. I pushed him away." Nathaniel collapsed into the chair behind him. "She protected me," Ava whispered. even if it meant I'd grow up hating you." Tears streamed down his face. He hadn't failed her. He hadn't walked away. He had been denied the chance. And suddenly the narrative shattered. The story he'd told himself all these years, that he was a monster, that he abandoned them, wasn't entirely true. He had still made mistakes. But the worst one was believing there was no path back. Ava sat beside him, eyes glassy. "I don't know what to do with this," she said. He reached for her hand cautiously. "We do what your mother would have done," he said. "We keep going. We find the sunrise." Spring came late that year. The city was just beginning to thaw when Nathaniel stood on a stage in front of hundreds of reporters, cameras flashing like lightning, microphones clustered at the podium. It wasn't a press conference about a merger or a corporate expansion. This one was different, more personal. Behind him stood a large screen. On it, a photograph appeared, one never before released to the public. A woman, young and radiant, holding a newborn baby against her chest. Her face was flushed with exhaustion, but glowing with pride. Her name was Elena Marlowe. Nathaniel stepped forward. He looked almost smaller than usual, despite his 6-foot stature and tailored Navy suit. He cleared his throat, gripping the podium as if it were the only thing keeping him steady. "There are moments," he began, "when your entire life is measured not by what you built, but by what you abandoned." Gasps whispered through the crowd. "For over 2 decades, I lived in a tower of success, a tower built on decisions I made. Some I'm proud of, and others I will regret for the rest of my life." Behind him, the photo faded to another image, a teenage girl in a simple blue dress, standing at the edge of a cemetery, alone. "I recently discovered that I have a daughter." Flashes erupted in a frenzy. "I didn't know," he continued, "and when I found out, it shattered everything I thought I understood about my past. Her name is Ava, and she is the strongest, most resilient, most extraordinary person I have ever met." In the wings, Ava watched, arms crossed tightly against her chest. She hadn't wanted this, hadn't asked for this. But Nathaniel insisted, not to parade her, not to score redemption points, but to set the record straight, publicly, irreversibly. He turned to face her. Their eyes met. "I abandoned someone once, but she never abandoned herself. And now I have the rare chance to be something I never was before. A father." It was the most vulnerable thing he'd ever done. Afterward, as the reporters shouted questions, Ava slipped quietly out the back door. Nathaniel caught up with her in the garden behind the building. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "Yes, I did," he replied. "For her, and for you." A long silence passed. Ava reached into her coat pocket and pulled something out. A small, square photograph. It was old, faded. A picture of Elena on a fire escape, holding baby Ava in her arms. Morning light spilled over them like liquid gold. "She always believed in second chances," Ava murmured, "even when no one gave her one." Nathaniel took the photo gently, as if afraid it might dissolve in his hands. "I want to do something," she said suddenly. "For her." He looked at her. "I want to start a foundation," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "For single mothers, for girls like me, who never had anyone, but kept going anyway." Nathaniel's throat tightened. "Then let's do it." In her name, they launched it that summer, the Elena Marlowe Foundation. It funded scholarships, housing for single-parent families, and mental health services. Ava insisted on being part of every meeting. She didn't want to be a figurehead. She wanted to work, to build, to honor the woman who raised her and the man who, against all odds, was trying to make up for lost time. And then, months later, came the final moment. Nathaniel asked her to meet him at the cemetery. She arrived to find a new gravestone beside her mother's, not for someone who had died, but for someone who had never been properly acknowledged. It read, "Elena Marlowe, beloved mother, fierce, brave, unforgettable." And beside her rests the name she never erased from her heart. Nathaniel Harrington, the father who found his way home. Ava stood there for a long time, and then slowly she took his hand. "I don't forgive everything," she whispered. "I know. But I see you." He looked at her, eyes glassy. "And I see you," he said. Every time the sun rises, a single tear rolled down his cheek, not from shame or guilt, but from gratitude, that somehow, despite the past, he had been given a future. They stood in silence as the wind danced through the trees. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in his life, Nathaniel Harrington felt whole. Because Ava had let him in, not just into her world, but into the legacy her mother left behind. A legacy of love, of resilience, of rising after the fall. And that was the story the world would never forget.